Hello, everyone. This is Steve from A Better Life. This podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, Premium Botanical. They are the makers of Herbal Spectrum, which is a full spectrum hemp-based CBD. They make salves, liquids, and they have a great mixed berry gummy. You can check them out at www.mypbcbd.com. Now our podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, A Better Life with George and Steve. Tonight is a special night because George is on location in Japan. Are you in Tokyo?
Yes, I am.
In Tokyo. Can you imagine? So this is the first time we're using this technology that we've had for so long, but we are using it. How are you, George?
No, I'm great. Fantastic. The flight was a breeze. Direct flights are the way to go. And I got a good night's sleep. I got up this morning at 5. It's currently 8:30 a.m. over here in Tokyo. And I texted you and we're like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, now we're going live on our podcast. Here we go.
Yeah. So we're not really live, actually. We're recording, but it's pretty much what we always do. And it sounds exactly the same. I don't even know if we had to tell them you were in Tokyo, but tell us. So you had a direct flight?
Yeah. It's pretty common. It's a 14-hour flight from JFK to Haneda, which is the closer of the two airports for Tokyo.
Right.
And once you get to Haneda, you take the train. It's $3 to get into downtown Tokyo. And you just then take the subway and you find where you need to go. You surface and voila, you're back in the mix.
Interesting.
It's so convenient. And I sometimes wonder why I continue life in New York. It was a $90 Uber ride for me from my apartment to JFK. And then from the airport to where I'm staying in Tokyo, it was $3.50. So it's crazy. And the convenience level and the timeliness, it's very convenient.
Great. Sounds great. You sound great. I mean, considering.
And I can't wait to hear the final product because I'm on earbuds. Yeah, what do they call that? Earpods.
It's it's not as full as it usually is here, but you're not running through a lot of the technology that we usually do here. You're not running through because you're coming in you're not coming through over the microphone. The difference is earbuds and an expensive Rode microphone
is an experiment for us.
Absolutely.
Like I purposely wanted to go off the wire just to see what the worst case scenario is, because if this passes, we could be podcasting from any spot on earth with the same gear.
That is true. I think it sounds great. You know that we run through 2 different softwares before it hits well, maybe you don't. But so when I edit, just for the edification of everybody out there, it goes through 2 different systems where it works on the sound. The first one, it really just converts it to a file that you can upload to a full rounded file. It cuts out the extra noise. It does some mastering of our voices because it's just our voices. There's really no music other than the lead in. And then it makes a transcript. I'm guessing using AI makes a transcript of everything. And then I edit it through the transcript. Like you would edit a Word document, you take out the extra spaces, you take out the extra words, things that don't sound right, you delete. If there's any noise or anything like that, you delete that. And it's on an online software that you have to be a member of and pay a fee. It's called Descript. And then it exports the file, and then that file goes into BuzzSprout. And then, I'm sorry, it's not BuzzSprout. It's Buzz something. And then Buzz then takes it, inputs it, does the exact same thing, takes it, makes a transcript, reads it, identifies. Both softwares ask me questions about who's speaking, how many people, what are their names, because when they make the transcript, they assign names to it.
And so the initial tag, right.
And then it does something called music mastering, and it's something MM. I can't think of what it is. But what it does is it goes through, it takes the highs and lows out, it makes it all sound the same, and then converts it to a file gives you some ideas for titles based on the words, and we edit it, and then it gets uploaded, and then BuzzSprout uploads it to all the major systems. So it really is you have to listen to it, and it's a little bit longer, probably 10 or 15 minutes longer than it is in the final BuzzSprout. I'm sorry. BuzzSprout does magic mastering, it's called. And it automatically goes through everything. It optimizes for spoken word or music if that's what you were doing. So it really does a great job, and it gives it the next level. I think our podcasts sound fantastic. I think every time, not as much as the beginning, but I think we're always surprised at how good it sounds, considering we do. We have Rode microphones that are what's called the pod mic, specifically for podcasting. We also have the Rode, what the heck is this thing called? We have a Rode recorder that basically makes everything sound great. You adjust it for the microphone, you adjust it for who we are and what our voices are. And then Caster Pro, that's what it is. And then we also go through a cloud preamp before it even goes into the Rodecaster Pro. So it's all recorded. The recording is then uploaded to an Apple computer, and then that's how the whole podcast comes
Thank
about.
goodness that you are an obsessive type of guy that does a lot of research before buying some heavy equipment, but couldn't have come out any better. I think this is what a journey, really. In Tokyo, we're doing a recording on Thursday morning, Wednesday night. And I gotta say, the weather is gloomy here. It's warm. It's probably in the 50s today, but it is going to be raining for the next 2-3 days. The people who I'm meeting are going to blame that I brought the rain, but they just had a 70-degree spring day 2 days ago on Tuesday. Unlucky them. I brought a little New York weather. But can you believe that? 70. It was 70 degrees here in Tokyo 2 days ago.
I wish it's supposed to be warmer here next week. I don't know when you're coming back, but it's supposed to be warmer here next week.
By the time I get back, I'm sure I'll bring the deep freeze into a...
It isn't this week. You know that I thought it was too cold if I start wearing a coat. I don't wear a coat.
Yeah.
I started wearing a coat. It was like this huge revelation. I was telling everybody. They were like, idiot. And we all been wearing coats for little kids. You're the only idiot that doesn't wear coats.
Oh, so I got into Tokyo. I had dinner, yakitori. Are you familiar with what yakitori is?
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Yeah, so it's chicken. It's mostly chicken on a skewer and then grilled over charcoal.
Right.
And it's the art of deboning the chicken and skewering it. So the size, shape, and how it cooks over a charcoal flame. The balance between everything and the sauces and the seasoning you do to the skewers. It was great. I think we had 7 skewers each, a salad, nice beverage, and then I think we finished with some ramen. Duck breast ramen, actually.
Wow.
And I think I just sent you some pictures so you can post them on the website. But things like this, it's just the convenience of great food and reasonably priced. This was probably like $40 meal each head.
It's nice. It's funny. I've watched some yakitori specialists on YouTube or on television or whatever, chefs, and it really is something. For those of you who are not familiar, it's really just like a barbecue on a skewer, and it really is such a talent because they understand each type of meat, like on a chicken, every different, the wing, the leg, the breast, different parts of the body that have different flavors and are prepared,
different textures,
right? And it's really a science.
Yeah.
And then they have, and I almost bought one. I have to stop sometime. And I almost bought one of the grills. And you buy this, and on MT, what is it, MTC, MTL? What is that company?
MTC Kitchen, right? They
MTC
have
Kitchens.
the best selection of Japanese cookery, kitchen equipment, knives, and also the ingredients. They're one of the largest and oldest importers of Japanese goods in the country. It's a one-stop shop. But yeah, we go on that website, and all of a sudden, $200-300 later,
Yeah.
you're ordering some toys.
What I found most interesting is the charcoal. The
Yeah.
Japanese charcoal for the grill is different than anything I've ever seen, and I've used a lot of charcoal in my life.
Yeah, it's a whole different science, different art form. The charcoal is made so it's all uniformly shaped. So there's more predictability in terms of how you stack and how you lay it out on the grill. Obviously, when we grill, we have a hot spot, we have a medium and a cool spot. Same thing goes with the Japanese grill for the yakitori. The chef will probably layer more charcoal on one side, and on the other side, it will be the cooler zone, and therefore you're able to manipulate the heat and how intense you want to cook each skewer at. I think some of the great yakitori chefs, even in New York City, these guys are so skilled. I've spoken to a few of them. Mr. Kono, Chef Kono, is one of my favorite chefs in the city, and he runs. I think he has a Michelin star for yakitori, which is incredible. But his food, his preparation, I think he told me he can prepare 23 different dishes from one bird. So he has the skill to break down the bird and accentuate 23 different variations. So whether it be the thigh, he'll take the thigh, he'll have the inner thigh, the outer thigh, that's two different portions. The breast, you have the tenderloin in the middle. Everything is broken down to very, very specific, and doing one of his tasting menus is one of the coolest things you can do as a foodie in the city. I highly recommend anyone try to get a reservation at his counter and just watch this master at work. In one hand, he's got the fan, and he's waving and manipulating the airflow, the oxygen, so that the charcoal gets hit with more oxygen, meaning more heat. And sometimes he lets go and lets it cook at a lower temp, even though it's still in the hot zone. And it's really just a marvelous thing to watch.
Yes, I haven't actually been to one, but I've seen some, and it's like going to a sushi chef. That's the best way I could explain it to the audience is
Right.
that it's like going to sushi where you go in, you watch them use their knives, and it's a very similar thing because they're unbelievable with the knives, how they trim and how they attach it to the skewer, and how they cook it and the marinade, and they're pretty straightforward marinades. It's all in the knife work and the meat
Yeah,
and how they cook it.
they keep it so simple. I think that that's really the beauty of a lot of Japanese cuisine is even though it looks so simple, the fundamentals of their craft guides their style. And each chef has a certain style. It's undeniable. But you look at even the most common, let's say, momo, which is thigh meat skewer, and you'll take, let's say, top 10 yakitori places in Tokyo. If you take a closer look at each guy's skewer, they're tapered differently. Some guys might have, let's say, four pieces, some guys might have three. And then you look at the first piece on the top and it tapers down to the bottom. It's sometimes a different size and configurations. Essentially, the chef wants you to have a different experience while you eat through that thigh skewer. The big piece comes first, and then the smallest piece is the third or fourth piece, and it undeniably it cooks different. If you have something that's 20% larger versus the fourth piece being 20% smaller, and you're cooking it on the same heat rate and everything, it's going to cook differently. So even though it's all fully cooked, those slight nuances, those slight differences give you a whole different experience to that just one skewer. And you multiply that by 8 or 10 different portions, right? Now you're doing breast meat, you're doing wing, you're doing the neck meat, you're doing, right? Like all these different, and then you have the innards, you have the liver, you have the heart, right? You have the sunagimo, is I think it's called the gizzard. And you have just this really amazing tasting menu from one bird. The broth comes out. It's pretty cool.
I bet you saw last night. You were at the place. You were at an amazing place to be doing this.
Yeah. I was watching the chef in front of me fan the skewers on that grill, and you get to chat with them if you want, or chat it up with your friend or whomever you're having dinner with. And yeah, it's just this interactive symphony of foods coming towards your way.
So where are you going? That's breakfast, right? What do you got? What do you have today? What do you have to do?
Breakfast, I just made a quick breakfast, some eggs, some sausages, a salad, yogurt, granola, coffee, and juice.
In the hotel room?
No, I'm staying with my girlfriends.
Oh,
I with jet lag, I'm up at 5. I went to the local 7-Eleven. Not only do they have prepared foods, but they have a nice grocery store. There's different styles of 7-Elevens, and this one happens to have a little bit more of a home grocery fare. So I just picked up some ingredients, made breakfast, and we had a nice breakfast in the morning. I'll prepare to get some work done before my conference calls later this afternoon. And I thought I'd sneak in a nice podcast session with you. So here we are.
I appreciate you did. I hope everyone out there appreciates it as well. Are there full-blown grocery stores like there are in the United States and Japan, because especially in Tokyo, because there's really not the room for it, is there?
So we always think Tokyo is really cramped, and it is. Okay, so I think it's one of the more densely populated cities in the world, but they use space so efficiently. It's really nice. As a kid, I didn't really appreciate the compactness, but now traveled pretty extensively around the world, and I've seen a lot of different ways of life. Way of life in Tokyo is, I keep on using the word efficient, but there's no really other better way of explaining. I think people as a collective are aware of energy. I think there's not that excessive, as Americans, right? We're all guilty of blasting our air conditioners. It's frigid. There's really no need for the amount of air conditioning we use as a country, but that's one thing. So I think if people are aware, I think people are aware that we don't need to drive 5-liter V8 engine cars for the most part. The government slaps a pretty heavy luxury tax sticker when your engine goes past, I think, 2 liters, is it, in Japan? If it pumps out more than 280 horsepower, there's another luxury tax. So there's certain ways to, I think, live life comfortably without excessive behavior. And I think Japan just does such a really good job with that.
Well, the gasoline's
yeah.
very expensive there, right?
It used to be double. I think now in the States, when we're hitting $3.84 a gallon, I think we're getting pretty close to what we pay here. And with the exchange rate, I think it's pretty much the same now.
Right.
So gas is, for the most part, expensive, but people just drive really small cars here. The cars are tiny, but no one's slamming the pedal and peeling out of their parking lots. It's just unheard of. Also, the funny thing about driving here is nobody honks the horn. It is incredibly polite. It is, unless you're in dire need of alerting someone of an emergency with a horn, you just don't honk the horn. And I've driven through Tokyo. I've driven in the countryside here, and on the other side of the road, everyone drives on the left side. The steering wheel's on the left side, on the right side now. And the fact that you don't honk the horn, even for just a little bit of a, hey, what's up? It just doesn't happen. So it's a whole different culture in that sense as well. I can't imagine going a day driving through New York City without honking the horn, right? It just, you can't.
I don't know. I rarely honk the horn. You don't. I know you don't believe that, but I rarely honk the horn.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a very different way of life here, and it's very peaceful. Actually, I just find a lot of serenity living in a very just peaceful society.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll be traveling throughout the whole Honshu, the island of Honshu. That's a big island throughout Japan in a few days. Meeting my colleague, and we're going to meet a lot of customers and clients. We're lining up new product lines for 2025, 26. And just meeting a lot of the owners and breweries and brewmasters throughout the country. So as things get a little bit more secured, I can't wait to share all this great news. But I will be re-entering the world of sake, Japanese, towards the end of this year. And I think we have a tremendous opportunity within the culinary landscape of the United States to really showcase some of the greatest brewed products in the world. Japanese sake. This is like my tagline. It's brewed like a beer, sips like a wine. It's really just this beautiful. If you enjoy Sancerres or even like Chardonnays with a little bit more gravity, or Sauvignon Blancs with a little more crispness, sake has it all, and has a tremendous amount of umami, has a tremendous amount of acidity. It is food pairing forward that I think we have we're budding on a renaissance, I think, in the States, and I can't be more excited to showcase that to everyone and all our listeners down the road.
Okay, so now that we're really talking about it, I'm going to tell you something. I've never tasted sake in my life.
Okay, fair enough. And most times when I talk to Americans, their first entry into sake are either sake bombs, or they'll have it really piping hot and they'll just shoot it at like the hibachi restaurants or some sushi restaurants. And there's no right or wrong way. I want to get that out of the way here. If you like your tequilas, if you like shooting them, fine. If you have now discovered the world of reposado, añejos, and now you're sipping tequilas like you would sip bourbon or other whiskeys, that's just your journey into the world of tequila. And the same thing goes with sake. Sake traditionally was drunk, warmed, probably to body temperature, if not slightly hotter, but not piping hot. But that is just to bring out a lot of the nuances you wouldn't taste at room temperature or chilled. Through technology, through rice polishing technology, we're able to now polish the rice, grind out the outer core to the finer white center where the starch is, and produce some very aromatic and floral sake. And that's why the shift from warm sake to chilled sake became so popular. And this was probably from the 80s to the 90s in Japan. And you give yourself a 10, 15-year lag for the Western world. So early on in 2000s, 2010, this must be drunk chilled movement happened. And for the most part, that's correct, because a lot of daiginjo, that is the funny Japanese word for premium high polish, came to be. And you definitely want to serve that sake around 35, 40, maybe 45 degrees Fahrenheit, like you would serve a high-end Chardonnay or high-end Sauvignon Blanc. And that there is just education needed to be had, right? The more you know, the more you can enjoy, like anything else in the world, cognacs, whiskeys, scotches. Same thing with sake. I think the industry as a whole has done an amazing job. We have so many talented, educated, and passionate educators of sake throughout the country. A lot of distributors, a lot of importers have poured a lot of money into the education of sake, and I can see the next 5, 10 years being an even bigger growth to what we've seen the past 10 years. Again, I'm just so excited to come back into this world and showcase and really talk about something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see that. I think people are out there looking for something different, something that complements their food in a way that hasn't been complemented before. And I think sake's the answer. I think sake is, like you said, it's ready for a renaissance. It's ready for something different. It's paired,
Right.
as we know, it's paired very well with food. It always has been, but it really shouldn't be limited to just Asian influenced dishes. And
I think a lot of,
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, a lot of times I think in the 80s and 90s, just the fact that something foreign was a little bit harder to embrace in the States. But, 2000, we are so open to anything in the world, anything from the world that is of quality. And I think Japan has done a tremendous job positioning themselves as producers of quality goods, and has been going around, has been brewed for 200 plus years for the type of sake that we're talking about. But historically, we can trace that back to probably 1500 years of a brewed beverage per se. But for all intents and purposes, highly polished rice milling, sake with conventional top fermenting yeast, and the product that we are actually producing today, give or take a few decades, but 200 years of history, leave it to the Japanese artisans. We're going to create some amazing juice. And it's no surprise to me that going to tastings and just talking to brewers, there's always something within their repertoire that fits with some of my favorite dishes here in the States, whether it be pizza, whether it be barbecue, whether it be even just Mexican food, Tex-Mex, SoCal, Southern California Mexican food, the barbecue from Texas, barbecue from South Carolina, from St. Louis, and pizzas from the New York area or even Chicago style pizza. We have so many different amazing American dishes that can go well with, and it doesn't have to be just wine, it doesn't have to be just beer, but Japanese sake is truly a vessel that can really take on this pairability aspect and really enhance anyone's meal and experience.
Right. I think it's going to take a little bit of educating people, much
Of
like my
course.
CBD business. It takes a little bit of educating people. It's really out there and it works the same way. As soon as you get a few people to try it and you start advertising it and you have purveyors of food out there that share in it and then share it with the guests in their restaurants.
All
So,
about that experience, right? All about sharing and then the hospitality and just trying something new. So yeah, it's a really interesting time, and that I really do believe the sake renaissance is here to happen in the next 5-10 years. We'll
right.
see tremendous amount of sakes on more beverage menus throughout the country, and it's all for the better. I can do a little bit of that to help the general cause. I think I'll be a happy guy. And who doesn't like? I tell some friends, I get paid to eat and drink, and it's true. It's really I don't work a day in my life, right?
I'm, you know me, I do 50 different thousand things and I feel the same way. People are like, aren't you exhausted? I said, no, I'm actually enthusiastic. I mean, I did crazy
Yeah.
stuff today. We don't need to go through it, but you get, you get excited about it. I'm happy that these are my jobs. These challenges that are rewarding to make something out of nothing. And you're always doing that. You're almost like an artist painting a picture or,
You're problem solving all day.
all day. And Mike, think about Michelangelo or any of the great painters or sculptors, and they would look at they always say they look at a piece of marble and they see the sculpture in there. And
Correct.
it's a blank slate. And that's exactly where you are. And you're taking new technologies and new efficient processes, and you're going to create something that's going to change how everyone in the world eats and
Hmm.
shares their time with each other. You have to be so excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great opportunity, and I think things happen for a reason, right? So it's a blessing. I take everything with a tremendous amount of humility, and I'm just grateful. So I can't wait to share more and educate all our listeners about the world of sake and how well it pairs with foods from the world.
So, where are you going to dinner tonight? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I missed Valentine's Day with my girlfriend, right? We're only
Let's remember it's Thursday there. It's the
right.
day we're on Wednesday. I'm on Wednesday.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
on
yeah.
Thursday.
I have the day to spend, and I made a reservation at this really nice Chinese restaurant. Believe it or not, some of the greatest Chinese chefs and Chinese restaurants are located in Japan. Surprise! I say that about pizza. I say that about other Italian food, but it is true. The precision and the sourcing of ingredients is so superior in Japan that it makes cooking that much easier. And I think a lot of times chefs will choose the ability to get a high quality chicken versus whatever, right? Long story short, there's a great restaurant here in Tokyo, and we are probably going to go with the course menu. It's a Michelin starred Chinese restaurant, and I actually don't know so much about it, but I do know of its gravitas within the world of gastronomy, and I can't wait to experience it. I will have in-depth knowledge in about 12 hours of this amazing restaurant here in Tokyo.
I can't wait to explore that next week. It's funny you bring up Chinese restaurants. I had a friend, Bonnie, who you know. She asked me for a recommendation of Chinese restaurants, and I sent it to O Mandarin, and then
Good.
which is in Hartsdale, New York. But I had to do a few caveats. One, realize the food could be really spicy, so watch yourself. And two, don't go in there and look for chicken and broccoli because it ain't going to be there. Just going to have to go with the flow in the menu. I said, when I go, George usually orders, so I don't have to worry. But there are different things on the menu. You have to be prepared to try them.
And for all intents and purposes, Old Mandarin in Hartsdale is my hands down favorite Chinese restaurant in our area in Westchester. They have handpicked a few dishes from a variety of different regions in China and made it their own. I wouldn't say it's the most authentic, but I would say it's the most cared for and thought forward cooking that you'd get in Westchester, and it's always a pleasant experience. I hope she enjoys it. The thing about eating Chinese is you definitely want to go with more people, the better, because then you get to try different dishes, you share, and you naturally create a banquet style tasting menu experience. So you have, usually you start with a soup, then you go with something lighter, and then all the different disciplines, something fried, something steamed, something stir fried, something braised, and then you have some vegetables. You want to mix up everything through the course to have land and sea. And this marriage of textures and experiences, whether it's protein, vegetable, land animals, sea animals, all these things creates the tasting menu experience.
So it's funny you said that. Probably one of the best Chinese restaurants I've ever been to was in Florence, Italy.
Wow.
So when I went to school in Italy, I went to the University of Urbino, which is in the north. On weekends, we would travel to every city you possibly can, every little village all over northern Italy and Tuscany and all different places. And then we ended up in Florence. We had 4 days there where we studied with a visiting professor from Cambridge. And we went to a Chinese restaurant, and it was the freakiest thing you ever saw. The food was Chinese. The menus were in Italian. You just didn't know what to think and what to say. But just people were Chinese, and they're speaking Italian. So it was really pretty interesting, but it was a great meal.
Nice.
By that time, I'd been there. I'd been in Italy probably 8 months, maybe 10 months. And I hadn't had Chinese food, obviously, because in the north that wasn't what they had. We ate a lot of Neapolitan pizza. We ate a lot of pasta.
What is it about human nature when we know we can't have something, especially foods, right? You want it more. I remember even on my plane, on the plane ride over here, I was texting you. And I was like, I really wish I had a juicy American burger. And I know I'm not going to have it for the next 14 days while I'm overseas because I would never, it's not like I'm wasting a meal, but I got to fill myself with foods I can't get back home, back in the States. And why would I look to get a burger? Plus, I feel like it would be just too neat of a burger here in Japan. It'd be made with some engineering precision, and just not the same. I think a nice smash burger, I think that's where I'm headed these days. When I want a burger today, I want something that's pressed and it's got a lot of char, that Maillard reaction on that double patty burger, and cheese has got to be perfectly melted and on a toasted bun, and that's what I'm looking for. So I'm just looking for a burger right now.
Have you ever been to the Cabin? And I know I must have spoken about it. You ever been to the Cabin it's in Valhalla? It's like a cabin from like 1928. And it's changed hands, so it got a little bit more well-rounded in with their food selection. But their burgers, so they have a regular burger, and it's just really good. I don't know how they cook it plain. It's really good. And then they serve it with truffle fries. and it's really good. So we're going to have to go on a road trip there. I like their burger, and their wings are good too. It's that kind of place. And we can go watch the football game. Families go there. It's big. It used to not be so big, but it got bigger.
That's great.
And it's really, I really love it there. So
a cabin restaurant. Okay. White Plains.
Valhalla. So it's actually on my street. You when you cross over and you just keep following up, you just follow up.
Okay.
Or the same street, to say same street as Hartsdale House of Pizza, and you just keep following it straight up, and it just becomes into Valhalla.
All right, that's another destination we have on our short list. The short list is not really short anymore; it's become a list.
It is, because we don't really go anywhere. We go to the same handful of places.
It's so hard. It's so hard to coordinate.
So we'll make all these plans, and then like the other night I got out of work early, and he was going away, so he was home, and we went over and said, "Oh, let's go to this steak place." So we had plans. We invited other people, and then he was done. So it was like 3:00. So he said, "I'm going to go over and have a cigar." I said, "You know what? I'm really done too." So I'll go over and have a cigar. Then we're sitting here having cigars, and the next thing is, why don't we just order a pizza so we don't have to go anywhere?
It wasn't so bad. I think just courting with buddies and getting excited about having the boys all together for steak, and some guy either bails or says they can't make it until way later, it takes the wind out of the sails, and then it becomes option 2 and option 3.
You just wanted to have a pizza delivered from Artistry House of Pizza. That's all. And it was good. I don't know what it was, but it was great. Oh, it was
the grandma.
It was sausage and broccoli rabe, and I love sausage and broccoli rabe.
Everything they make there is pretty good. I gotta admit,
it is.
You know, it's
even cold. It was good because it was 20 below that day. It was the coldest day of the week. I don't want to hold you up. I think we've covered a lot of ground, and we're talking about Japan. I'm waiting for the next week. You'll still be there?
Yeah, next week I'm a little busier. I have just on a whirlwind travel schedule, just going from prefecture to prefecture. But we can always squeeze in a little time.
Right. When are you coming back? You there for 2 weeks, or are you there?
Yeah, something like that.
All right.
I'll be
so
back.
It doesn't matter because I'm not going to process this one for a little bit anyway. So I thank you for taking your time out of your whirlwind road trip there.
My pleasure.
And
more updates to come. Check your text. I hope, just post as much as you can, and we'll answer any questions anyone has when they send us DMs and whatnot. Please keep listening and hit that subscribe and tell your friends. I think we're now expanding into close to 900 downloads and even more people following. Thank you, and can't wait to report on more things.
And we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please subscribe, like, even review. I appreciate it all. More to come. And George and Steve, we're out. Have a good night.
Good night.